Hey guys, and welcome back to another one of my videos. So one of my previous videos, I showed you how to attach a fire particle system onto your avatar. This was an already made particle system, a fire breathing particle system, which was made by one of my good friends. So today we're going to be doing a deep dive on this, and we're going to actually show you how to set up a fire breathing particle system. Of course, this doesn't have to be only the fire breathing, but the settings we're using in this video, it's strictly going to be for fire breathing. I'm not that experienced with particles, so for this video, I'm going to be letting my friend take over, and he's going to be telling you everything you need to know about particles. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it.
Firstly, if you just create an empty object, like it's in the root of your hierarchy, and it doesn't matter where, because we can parent it afterwards, and just name that I don't know, fire or something, or particle system, whatever you want to call it. Now, you want to add a component to this thing, and you want to add a particle system. Who would have guessed?
Whoa.
And now you have pink squares. That's cool and all. Of course, that's not what you really want. What you're going to want to do is create yourself a material.
Okay.
So if you create just a material, and then you want to change it from standard shader to to particles, and standard surface. And this is the funny particle shader, which Unity has by default. It's basically like standard shader with cut down and then works particles. Of course, we need a texture for this. I assume you don't already have some fire texture you want for this. Well, then what you'll probably do is if you click on the albedo texture real quick, like the dot next to the albedo texture, click that and just search particle, and then default particle.
Yeah.
And then that's just the default base bog standard circle.
Yeah.
We can work with that, and you can always change it if you need be. Now let's put this on the actual fire particle. We can edit the material straight afterwards if it needs to be. So already issue number 1, they aren't transparent. That's really easy to fix. So if you scroll down to the you can keep the particle system open if you want, but yeah, you want to change it from you see it's right there at the bottom. Yeah, you change it from opaque to fade. Probably the best one for this. Or the other one you could also use is, because this is fire and it's meant to look glow, with additive. So if you change it from fade to additive, that might be a bit better. There you go. They've kind of got like just a colored dot, which you can tweak down to be fire in a bit.
Yeah.
So let's start with the settings from top to bottom, right? I'll just go through the main ones you need to worry about. So duration. That's just kind of how long each loop is, or like how long each cycle is, if it makes sense. For your case, because it's just constantly looping and it's going to shoot fire, you can just set that to like 0. It will automatically put it to the minimum. It puts it to 0.05. That's the minimum. Then, of course, tick box for looping. That's, well, it loops. Pre-warm is a bit weird. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need it on most of the time.
Okay.
Start delay. That's how long it takes until it actually starts once it's toggled on. Start lifetime is like how long the particle lives. So the higher that number, the longer the particle is around. So for fire or something, you probably want it like, I don't know, maybe 1 second at most, or maybe like it's not going to be in the air for too long. So maybe 1 second. You can always change it. And then start speed. That's how fast it goes. 3D size tick box, you can ignore that. It just makes it so you can change the size of different axes. Then the start size, well, it's 1, right? This is how big it is. So the start rotation, you can ignore that because they're billboards. Flip rotation, you can also ignore. One of the most important things, you see where it says simulation space?
Yeah.
Change that from local to global. Because if it's local, if you rotated like the particle system, right? Yeah, world, yeah. If you so on local, if you rotated it, it would like stick to whatever you're rotating. But if it's world, it will like drag behind as if it's in world space.
Okay.
Simulation speed, that just means you can decrease the speed of time. Delta time, you can ignore that. Scaling mode is just where it inherits the scale from. You will want it on local. It makes it the most easy to use. Then play on awake just means when you toggle the particle system on, it activates, which is what you want. Then you can ignore emitter velocity. The max particle, this is a very important one. This is basically what VRChat counts for performance. And you ideally want this to be as close to how many particles like you ever have at a time. So in theory, if this was our finished particle system, you see the little window on the bottom right that says particle effects?
Yeah.
And you've currently got it playback, and it says particles 20. That's saying that's how many particles are currently out in the air. So, and it's staying at 20. So
Yeah.
if this was your final particle system, you would set it to 20 on your max particles.
Okay.
Although we haven't finished yet, we're gonna have more particles than 20.
Okay.
So just leave it at 1,000 for now. We can go back and edit that. Next, emission. This one is fairly simple. Rate over time is how many particles we are spurting out. So what I would probably do is set that to, I don't know, 100. That's going to look a lot better once it's focused into a beam.
Yeah.
Rate over distance is just, it will emit as you move the particle system instead of like constantly. And then burst will emit a certain number when you turn it on, if that makes sense. That's
Okay.
just how they work. Now, the really fun one, shape. This is where we truly get crazy stuff. So currently it's a cone shape, and you can see that cone shape like is like kind of wireframe there.
Yeah.
And that's probably what you want for this, because you want it to start focused and spread out, I'd assume.
Yes.
So let's start with the radius, and that's currently 1. Put that to like 0.05 or something. You don't want it very big. There you go. And now that's going to come out of a fairly focused point, aka your mouth, when we put it there. So if you want it to spread out less, you change the angle that's above it, right? So you see angle 25. If you put that to like 5, it would have a lot less spread. And you can always increase the rate over time if you want more particles, for example. The radius thickness you can ignore. Arc you can ignore as well as the radius thickness. The mode random, that's what you'd want. That means it's like randomly doing it. The other ones kind of do it like, for example, loop will do it loop around the outside of the cone, as you can see. The funny spiral. Ping pong goes back and forth, and burst spread. I don't know how that one works. It does different things for everything. The spread, I can't actually remember what that does. I think that just changes how random it is. At 0, it's like fully random, I'm guessing. Then emit from base is what you want, because it's emitting from the base of the cone. Volume would emit like randomly from inside the cone, if it makes sense. Position, rotation, scale, that's just where the cone is. Currently, it's going forward. That's what you want. Align to direction just means you can do some funky stuff with it, mostly just changing how the particles are emitted, like which direction they go. Same with the randomized direction, spherized direction, and all that stuff. So if you scroll to the collision section, and then here, you want to change it from type planes to, you see the top where it says type planes, you want to change it to that to world, and that means it bounce off everything in the world. And now, it is funny bouncing. First thing I'd do, at the very bottom, you see where it says visualize bounds? That just lets you look at, like, if you turn that on, it will let you look at what the collision boxes actually are. Now, you could tweak the radius, which is radius scale. It's in the middle. Yeah, and you can tweak that to get that to the right radius you want. 1 isn't too bad. You might want it smaller, because you kind of got like a small particle, if that makes sense. The other settings, so let's start from top to bottom. Dampening, that's how much speed is lost when it bounces off. So at 0, it loses no speed. At 1, it loses all its speed. If you put it to like 0.5, it loses half of its speed, for example. So that you kind of just want to tweak, see how much speed you want it to lose. The bounce is just how much it bounces. The lifetime loss is an interesting one. So you know how currently our particles, they live for 1 second, right? So the lifetime loss is what percentage of that lifetime it's like multiplied by when it hits. So if you did 0.5, it would half its lifetime when it hits it, which bearing in mind it's already halfway through its lifetime, it makes it super short. So that's up to you. So if you had that at 1, for example, it would instantly die upon hitting the surface. The min kill speed, max kill speed, that kind of is what it means. It's basically saying if you are between these, if you are outside of these values, so if you're going slower than 0 or faster than 10,000, it will just delete the particle. So that's funny collision. Currently, you see they just disappear at the end of their travel thing. I assume you would want that to fade out.
Exactly.
So you see the tick box that says color over lifetime. You see if you click on that white bar, you have a gradient editor. Bright orange is going to start that and then change color over lifetime. So this is like a start color. And then we can set the end color. So if you go back to your gradient and click on the right one, you can set funny end color. Yep. And then if you want to make it fade out, so if you now see the top markers, yes, if you wanted to fade out, you can just change the alpha to 0, and that'll make it be completely invisible by the time it finishes. So if you go back to velocity over lifetime, if you go to the speed modifier at the bottom, yep, and add a curve to this guy, see if that does, and do the same thing we did before. See if that slows it down when it gets to the end. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was thinking of. That's currently in the negative. If you look at the very left, you've got like your values.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so what you can do here is have it like half its speed, like as it goes, so that it kind of looks like it's as it's going, it's getting air resistance. If it makes sense. And it's kind of the fun. You can have them like be wavy as you want. You can have them be absolutely chaos if you really want. This is a very, very good tip for working particle systems. You should almost like for most stuff. This is very, very good to have on. You see a couple down. We've got inherit velocity. There you go. This is super useful. You won't see any difference here. Change the multiplier to 1, otherwise it's not going to work. And basically what this does, right, is when we didn't have this, the particle would like spawn in and just kind of stay where it was when it spawned in.
Okay.
Now, if you like move your particle system left and right with just the move tool, you'll see it kind of like it inherits the speed of the objects moving. And that multiplier is how much it inherits. So for something like this, it might be better having it like, I don't know, 0.7 or 0.5, but it's up to you. You can tweak
Like
it.
that?
And one other fun thing you might want to do is if you go up, I think we skipped one right at the very beginning. You see gravity modifier is currently at 0. That's going to mean it's going to go like rise as it goes. The pro tip to making any particle system look 10 times better, it just takes a bit of tweaking. So you see above the collision section, there is the noise section. It kind of just makes particles get blown around, if it makes sense. And you can these settings kind of just let you tweak like how much this noise affects. So the strength is how much the noise affects it. So if it's at 0, it would not affect it at all, for example. The frequency is kind of you see that preview on the right. So if you put that back to 1, it's easier to work with at 1. We can turn it down afterwards. If you change the frequency around, you'll see kind of what it does. It basically changes how zoomed in or zoomed out that noise is. And that noise is a randomly generated kind of like 3D thing. Makes sense. And the scroll speed is how fast it's moved about that. So if you had that like if you turn it up, you'll see boom, you've got super fast moving thing. Yeah, this is really good for getting kind of like looking like stuff within a breeze or making stuff look light. Each octave is a second map that's half the size stacked on top of the first one. So the higher your octaves are, right, the more jittery it becomes, the less smooth it becomes, if it makes sense. A lot of them like kind of like self-explanatory. So like color by speed changes color, how fast they're going. Like size by speed, that's the same thing. Size over lifetime, how big they go over the lifetime, which you could find a use for. Like for example, with this, you could have them start small and get bigger. Rotation by speed, similar thing. External forces, that one's a funky one. You can basically set like wind and stuff and have other forces acted on it. Annoyingly, not really for VR chat though, because a lot of the components like that are used for noises are blacklisted, so you can't actually use them, which is a shame. Triggers you also can't use because that's for like coding and stuff, if I'm not mistaken. Sub-emitters is the super funky cool one. Basically, it lets you add a second particle system to your first particle system, which happens when, for example, you can have a particle system which emits from a particle, or you can have a particle system which emits from a particle when it dies, or like stuff like that. So that one's a useful one. The texture sheet animation is really useful. So let's say you had like I don't know, a fire, like an animated fire you wanted, right? And it's like in this sprite sheet. Yeah, it basically lets that be set up. So it would pan through, it would go through your sprite sheet automatically over its lifetime and stuff. You can change its speed.
But yeah, that was pretty much it when it comes to the particle systems. I really hope that this video helped you out. Thank you so much to my friend Inverted Crink for helping me with this video, because I was just completely lost with the particle system. Stick around for more future videos coming your way, and I'll see you around. Peace.